Warning! Warning! This podcast has strong language, opinions, and may cause some people to become incredibly butthurt. Discretion is highly advised. Just, so you don't get your feels hurt.
Welcome back to Pop Chaos for another exciting episode. We are covering something that is an oldie but a goodie, something Madison has never seen before. I was trying to come up with a nice little title for it, but it escapes me at the moment. So if anybody has an idea, just blurt it out. But I'm Jay.
I'm Brian.
And now I'm Madison.
And we watched. Wait, what was it? What was it we watched?
G.I Joe.
G.I
The
Joe.
movie.
The movie from 1987.
The movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, tweet. So, Madison, you have never seen it before, correct?
No, I have not.
But you have seen G.I Joe. I mean,
Yes.
You're aware of it.
Yes.
Well, what did you think?
I didn't realize the movie was going to be this sci-fi, to be completely honest with you. I mean, from what I know of Joe from when I was younger, it was all just, guns, shooting. You had Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, the ninja.
Well, what did you think of the sci-fi element of it? Was it something that you liked, or was it just...
Yeah, it was good. It was different. I liked it. It kept my interest, for sure.
Okay, cool. All right. Brian, anything?
I think it's an unfairly criticized movie. The science fiction aspect is heavily critiqued and criticized by G.I Joe fans, but yet these are the same fans who accept battle android troopers and a cloned Cobra Emperor.
Oh, yeah, Serpentor being cloned, yeah.
So, or genetically engineered. So that's... They fired laser rifles at each other, for crying out loud.
Well,
So was the sci-fi thing, was that just for the movie?
Well,
Yes.
I don't know. I would say there are aspects of sci-fi throughout the series. Not in the comics as much, but in the cartoon. I mean, you had the Fatal Furries, or the Fatal Was-Its, as one of the Joes called them. I can't remember who it was that said it, but I mean, you had weird shit like that. And then there was the episode with the giant worm that they were throwing apples in to get it to shrink back down. So there was... weird sci-fi elements.
There was always science, but the Cobra Law element in the movie was only for the movie.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
the characters for Cobra Law only appeared in the movie.
Right, so we never got Globulus or Nemesis Enforcer or Pythona or any of those characters in the show. And to my recollection, I don't think they were in the comics either, were they?
No, Larry Hama put his foot down and said he would not put them in the comic.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
why would they take the time to make a movie of these characters and not envelop them into the shows and the comics?
That's a
They
good
needed
question.
something spectacular for the movie.
Okay.
They went through several iterations of the script. They finally settled on Cobra Law, which was actually a placeholder name, but Hasbro fell in love with it, so they just used it. They were pushing for a script called The World's Most Dangerous Man, who was the guy, the true face behind Cobra,
Okay.
who was like Cobra Commander's mentor, and he was like the most dangerous man in the world.
Yeah, see, that was weird.
And
That was weird for me not seeing Cobra Commander in as much, because that's all I knew growing up was just like, okay, Cobra Commander, he's the main villain of whatever,
the movie was basically served the same purpose as Transformers, to introduce the new product line for 1986 and eliminate the product line that came from previous years.
Okay.
That's
Since
why
they were
that's why, as Brian was saying when we were watching the movie, the Carno trees were supposed to have killed, Quick Kick, Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Lady J, Flint, or well, not Flint, but let's see who else was in there. I can't remember. And then Duke was supposed to die as well.
But he was in a coma.
There were yeah. There were rumors that the originals one of the original scripts, the Carno trees actually killed the Joes, but I've never seen anything that actually confirmed it.
So they were wanting to do that to bring in new characters.
Right. Basically,
Exactly.
it was because the way toy lines work is G.I Joe, the '84 line, had been discontinued by the time the movie came out in '87.
Okay.
Obviously, and the '85 line, the '86 line. I'd say the '86 line was probably still somewhat on the shelves, but they were trying to get
G.I. Joe,
the '87, '88 line. Get people hyped up for that. So you can't buy Duke and Scarlet and the Baroness and Cobra Commander and all them anymore. So they were going to do away with them to bring in Falcon and Hawk and the other characters.
Okay.
The way G.I. Joe worked, and it was not unusual for toy lines to do this. Usually, a product from 1982, for instance, or 1980. Let's take 83. Would be available through 84, maybe into 85. But once a year to a year and a half, 2 years tops.
Depends
Once
on how
that
lucky
2 year
you were.
period is in, yeah, depending on distribution and how lucky you were, you could find the 84 product in 86. The movie started development in 86 and was delayed for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I'm not
Anything else
sure.
you were interested in?
I don't. I'm not sure why it was delayed. I know that it started production before Transformers the movie,
Yes.
and it was supposed to come out first, which is why Duke was supposed to die. And all the stuff that was cut was not going to be cut, obviously. And then when Transformers come out, which I'm not going to give anything away because Madison hadn't seen that either, that's one we're going to tackle sometime soon.
Yeah.
But because of reasons in that movie, Duke didn't die, and they changed it. They added Scarlet saying he's in a coma and all that shit. But I did have a question for Madison. I can't remember what it was. So, was there anything?
So them saying that Duke is in a coma, that's just leaving the opportunity to bring him back, essentially.
Right.
Is that why they said that? Because
Right.
I remember them having Duke as you could buy him as. I would get the 12-inch figures when I was younger, and I remember buying Duke and Snake Eyes and stuff like that. So, and this is later on after this had came out because I was born in '94, so this is probably early 2000s when I had got these toys.
Duke later he got another version, and he got a Tiger Force version in 87 or 88,
Somewhere around there, yeah.
and then he got a new version in the 90s in
Okay.
1990, and then he got another version in 93
Okay.
or 92.
So that's probably the version they just stuck with. That's probably the version that I grew up with.
Yeah, I would say so. That's the one that the 12-inch figure was based on. It's the
Okay.
last version.
Yeah, because that's all I had was the 12-inch figures.
Yeah,
And,
they did. Let's see, Duke, Snake Eyes. Who else did they do?
Stalker
12
and
inch.
Cobra Commander.
Yeah, the Cobra Commander. They did
Stalker.
several. Stalker. Storm Shadow.
They did. Yeah, Storm Shadow, Ace.
So what Storm
He did
Shadow
Roadblock.
was he an original character or was he somebody that was brought in later on?
Well, that's
Storm Shadow actually was in the movie as a Cobra.
Really? Oh, that's right.
Yes.
That is right. That is right. I totally forgot about that.
see, when you talk about the
Yeah.
original characters, it's kind of that's kind of a hard question. I wouldn't say it's a hard question to answer, but I mean the '82 toy line. How many? There was what 13 Joes in the original '82 line. So
Yes.
let's see. I'm not as familiar. I mean, Brian, like I said, this is his forte. This is his thing. Is G.I Joe, so he could tell you way more about it than I can.
Storm Shadow first debuted. The figure first hit in 1984.
Okay, I was thinking he wasn't one of the originals.
No, he came out with the Firefly and Scrap Iron and the Baroness. And Duke was actually originally a mail away, and he hit stores in '84 carded.
Well, here's something
So
that I don't think Madison would know that I always found interesting. All the G.I. Joe collectors out there be like, well, duh. But, hey, he doesn't know, so I'm going to bring it up. Originally, Snake Eyes was not a Joe.
Okay, I did not know that.
I'll let Brian explain that
No,
one.
originally Snake Eyes was meant to be a Cobra spy, hence the name Snake Eyes, the eyes of the snake.
Okay.
But the original Snake Eyes figure is unique because he had absolutely zero paint applications. He was
just
a
all
solid black figure.
That's really cool.
Yep.
And the kids loved him so much that they just decided to make him
were
a Joe.
drawn to him.
I loved Snake Eyes when I was little. That was probably my favorite. Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. And what I know from the story when I was growing up was, I think Storm Shadow was Snake Eyes' brother, or he was related to him somehow, or they had the same mentor or something. From what I remember, they had some kind
depends
of
on which
dispute
one
going
you
on.
go with.
Because didn't they have a movie? Didn't they make a newer movie that kind of was
They
like a
made a horrible new
backstory?
movie.
It was like a backstory of Snake Eyes.
It was.
Wasn't it?
Yes, and it was terrible.
I was going
The
to say
animation was that weird animation.
No. We're talking about the live action Snake Eyes movie, and it was god awful. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It was terrible.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
I don't know.
When
but
you
no.
see, it could be Spy Troops,
Valor versus
or
Venom.
it could be Ninja Battles. Ninja Battles, they introduced Shadow Strike, Storm Shadow's apprentice.
Okay, yes, I am thinking of the Snake Eyes live action.
Yeah, it was
not
terrible.
good.
Yeah, it was beyond awful.
I mean, it's like they tried to make Snake Eyes. It's like they tried to turn him into Deadpool. I mean, he was just kind of an asshole, and he talked nonstop. And I'm like, no, bro, that's not Snake Eyes. So
didn't he take an oath of silence or something?
I'll let Brian explain that one. I mean, I know the story, but he can tell it way better than I can.
In the original G.I. Joe movie, Rise of Cobra, he had retaliation. They had said he had taken a vow of silence because of the death of his mentor.
Okay.
If you go by the comics continuity,
I like the comics version much better.
He was on a desert mission, and the helicopter he and Scarlet were in got sand in the engines, and they stalled out and crashed into another helicopter, and the fuel tanks ruptured. The fuel caught on fire and blew through the window and burned Snake Eye's face and vocal cords. So he couldn't speak.
See, that's a way better. I like that way better.
He was disfigured and almost killed saving Scarlet.
So that's why he wears the full uniform.
Right. Yeah, that's why he's
Yeah.
got the mask and everything. Yep. Yeah. I always liked the
Although he
comic.
later got plastic surgery in the comics to where he was more human looking.
He actually got plastic surgery.
Yeah,
Yes.
because he was once a man. Sorry, I had to.
Well, the funny thing is the surgeon that did in the comics that did his plastic surgery also did the plastic surgery for the Baroness.
So
He was the world's.
I was unaware that
He,
she had plastic surgery.
oh yes, she was injured in a operation in a night attack operation on the Mint. I believe it was the Mint, and the his tank she was in crashed, and the fuel tank ruptured, and it exploded and burned her over 95% of her body.
Shit. Yeah, I didn't know
And
about
she was
that.
rescued by Major Blood. She had extensive plastic surgery, so that's when she switched from her blue uniform to her famous leather uniform,
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Um.
and that's
So
when she got the figure from in '84.
I'm just.
You had asked me a question about Snake Eyes, and
Yeah, I feel like he wasn't in the movie very much. Like it just like he randomly showed up and then he kind of just like disappeared. Which I guess that kind of leads into what you were talking about, how he was supposed to die or something like that.
well, he's the writers of the show really couldn't figure out how to write for Snake Eyes because he's mute.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they couldn't give him character development via lines of dialogue.
Hell,
So
half the characters in the movie didn't even have all. They had like one
That's
line.
that's true. There was, but you got to remember there are so many GI Joe characters.
Yeah,
Though I mean, it would be hard to give a spotlight on all of them. I
it's
mean,
really like a
that's
10-hour movie.
yeah. I mean, that's like Airtight. I always loved Airtight. I thought he was a really cool character, and he's only in one scene, and he's the one jumping out of the fucking window when Cobra attacks. Um,
I believe he's also one of the operators of the recon sleds that get blown up.
he was, yeah, yep.
So when they go to
But
Cobra Law, when they first get in there, when they're chasing Commander Cobra, are those mercenary guys? Are they fighting with the Joes until she shows them that diamond?
Oh, the Dreadnoks.
oh no, those
Okay.
are the dreadnoughts.
So they weren't with the
Yeah,
Joes.
No, they
no,
are
they're Cobra mercenaries.
right.
Okay, because it kind of like when they first came in there, it kind of looked like they were fighting with the Joes, and then later on they're like fighting against them. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Because that kind of confused me a little bit.
Yeah, no, Zartan and the
It was a lot to keep up
Dreadnoks.
with.
Yeah, the Cobra employs them as to do different projects, different what would you say, missions, I guess, because Zartan and Zarana are masters of disguise, and then you got the other
Okay.
Dreadnoks that are
And
just,
Xandar.
and Xandar. I forgot about Xandar. And the others are just, I mean, basically hired muscle. I mean, they're good at demolitions, destruction, and just tearing the shit out of stuff.
Yeah, they're more they're a biker gang in the comics. They're more of like urban shock troops or
Okay.
urban terrorists.
Okay.
They're the kind that go into cities and would like terrorize the city to kind of get
Like bribe
maybe as a
them.
diversionary tactic to get the Joe's
They're,
attention.
they're the kind of guys that RoboCop
Okay.
would shoot in the dick.
Yes, very much so.
um,
They would have
so
a T-shirt made about them.
exactly, yes, and then that chick would wear it, and Peter Weller would laugh. Um, well, what was there any characters that you liked or didn't like in the movie, or ones that you would think, hey, I'd like to know more about them, or some that you're like,
I
oh
feel
my
like,
god, they just annoyed the piss out of me.
well, the sports guy what
Big
was his
Love
name?
makes his movie.
Yeah. That was. I'm just like, okay, man, good. Stop talking about yourself. All right, we get it. Stop making sports analogies. We fucking get it. But as far as like other characters, I mean, it's a lot to keep up with in the movie. And like you said, most of the characters didn't have a lot because it would take too long to introduce all the characters. So I feel like as far as wanting to know characters more and stuff, I would have to dive into more of the show, the comic books, and get more backstories on certain characters and stuff like that.
Fair enough.
G.I.
Yeah,
Joe and Transformers movies are a bad place to jump in on the franchise.
Right.
they really
Because
are
Because like you said, if you don't know who's who, you don't know what the hell's going on.
yeah, that's kind of how I felt watching it. I mean, the whole, like I said, the whole sci-fi thing kept my interest and stuff. But I'm just like, I only know a handful of characters, and like I said, Snake Eyes was my favorite growing up, and he was only in the movie for like 5. Felt like, and then of course Duke's in a quote unquote coma. I'm just like, what is happening? What is going on? And I don't know a ton about G.I. Joe, so it was really hard for me to follow. Or really connect with the characters.
That was one of the major critiques of both G.I. Joe and Transformers. The critics went into it blind and they had no idea what was going on.
yeah. The critics pretty much lambasted G.I. Joe and Transformers. They didn't like it. The problem with
They were a
Transformers
little
the movie,
kinder to G.I. Joe.
they were. The problem with Transformers the movie though was the odd times that theaters would show it. I mean, like around here, I remember they would show it in the middle of the day. I mean, it was rated PG-13, and they did that so it could get more airtime in theaters, and you could get a later time slot. Have all through the day and the afternoon.
Actually, it was just, that was pre PG-13. It was PG.
Okay, PG, yeah. Anyway, but it didn't really work out because they showed it mostly, I think, around like noon, 1 o'clock. When most kids were in school.
And we'll talk more about the Transformers movie and what they tried to do to get college kids to come in on it. G.I. Joe never stood a chance to be a theatrical release. There were plans to put out to have G.I. Joe be in theaters and have events where Sergeant Slaughter would show up, and you could watch the movie with Sergeant Slaughter, and he would give away prizes, and it would be more of a festive environment to watch the movie in, and be a lot of fun.
Let's see, I don't ever remember.
Unfortunately,
I don't ever remember G.I. Joe being in theaters. I always took it and always assumed, and everything I've read, that it never got a theatrical release. But I've seen some people saying that they had actually seen it in theaters in the 80s, and I don't know if this is a Mandela effect type thing, or just bad memory, or what, or maybe it was played in certain areas on limited runs. I don't know. But I know, as far as a mass release, it was not in theaters.
I've never been aware of any theater showing G.I. Joe outside of the Fathom event last year or year before.
Yeah, it was.
So why did they not want to show it in theaters? Because the critics and stuff?
That we can't really go into too much because it ties in with Transformers the movie, and if we go into it, it'll give spoilers away for that.
Okay.
The two are
actually I can actually answer that without spoiling Transformers.
Right, go for it.
Okay. G.I. Joe did not get a theatrical release because Transformers the movie and My Little Pony the movie were released in theaters, and both of them bombed.
Mm.
So by the time G.I. Joe was finished and ready to be released, they were terrified that it would bomb. They decided to go direct to a home video.
Okay.
Yeah,
which
VHS.
Probably, yeah, and then they showed it in a 5-part series on cable, on syndicated television, hosted by Sergeant Slaughter. That's and cool. USA Network showed it in its entirety on USA's Cartoon Express.
Yeah.
Now, did they ever release
Oh.
like collectors like VHS that came with like a figure or anything?
They
No,
well, not for the
not
original
for the movie.
series. Not the movie either. I know they did. Like was it Spy Troops or something? They had DVDs that came with like figures back in the day.
They did release. They did release.
Various episodes, I think.
There was a Kid Rhino box set that came with a figure. It came with a Snake Eyes. I've got that one.
Yeah, I was just curious because
Um,
you saying them they didn't want to release it in theaters because they were afraid of it bombing. I didn't know if that was like a tactic that they had because the kids would be in store, be like, "Oh, here's a GI Joe figure," then I could get be with it too.
No, see, back in the '80s, things were a lot different than they are now. You didn't have a lot of the quote unquote collectible things like you do now. Like if you went into hell, I don't even remember places like Walmart or Target having G.I. Joe the movie or Transformers the movie for the longest time. Mostly you'd get it through like specialty shops like rental stores and stuff could order it for you. But if you did find the movies, it literally was just that. It was just like I remember G.I. Joe came in the clamshell VHS case. I remember, and then later they reissued it in the cardboard box.
Where it slides out, yeah.
Yeah. But no, there was not a lot. Huh?
There may have been a promotion like there was with Transformers where you could order a copy of it via the mail order.
That may be true. Yes, I don't remember that. I remember the Transformers one.
Remember. Yeah, that's how I got my copy of Transformers when I was a kid.
But yeah, like
I don't remember one for G.I. Joe at all.
Yeah, all this stuff you see in the modern day of like you buy a DVD and you get a figure or a little statue bust or whatever. That really didn't happen a lot back in the 80s, if at all, that I can remember. I mean, like a few years ago, I got the Blu-ray special edition of Blade Runner, and it came with a little the spinner, the car from Blade Runner, a little
that's really cool.
That. And that's a big reason why I got it. I mean, I love Blade Runner, but I was like, man, okay, it comes with a little spinner. I have to have that. But stuff like that just didn't happen much back in the day.
It's crazy how far collecting has come nowadays. It's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that, which I mean, I grew up in the early 2000s. Collecting is totally different now than what it was in the early 2000s. But it's just weird to wrap my head around the fact that a lot of people didn't collect back then like they do now.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's just a totally different time.
They didn't even market G.I. Joe that well.
No, they really didn't. Hell, they didn't even market Transformers that much, other than they had commercials advertising it during the show and during like cartoon blocks in the afternoons after school. But I don't remember much marketing of it beyond that.
Well, I mean, look at the stuff we have now with marketing. It's not, it's not like what it used to be at all. It's completely different. You just had magazines and commercials.
Yeah. Well, the amazing thing is they put out the Cobra Law 3-pack and the Sergeant Slaughter's Renegades 3-pack of figures, never mentioning that they were in a movie.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
They never mentioned that there was a movie. No blurb at all anywhere on the packaging.
You think that was like a mistake, or they just threw it out? They just threw it out there like that.
I'm thinking maybe it was an oversight.
I think they just didn't know what to do. Since they were afraid the movie was going to bomb and Transformers and My Little Pony had tanked at the box office, they didn't really advertise characters from Transformers the movie either.
No, they really did. Well, I mean, you would have certain toy commercials that would they kind of skirted like I mean, for the toy commercial for Rodimus, I don't know that they even really told much about him. My memory's kind of fuzzy on that. I don't think that they did they even call him the new leader in the commercial.
No, they
I
never
don't.
did.
I'll have to. We need to look that
I
up
think they
because
called him like
I mean, I
I think they called him
remember.
like a city commander.
I remember them, the tagline, no one takes down Decepticons like Rodimus Prime or something like they may have called him the new leader. If they did, I apologize. I just don't remember the commercials all that well. Yeah, we'll get into all that when we do Transformers. Back to G.I. Joe. But, yeah, I mean, being a kid back when G.I. Joe and Transformers was first hot, it was kind of rough because you didn't have. I mean, this is before even like Wizard magazine because in the '90s, mid to late '90s, you had Wizard magazine. You could get it every
Right.
month, and they would talk about figures and comics, obviously, and tell you like what's coming out. But Brian, I don't remember much of anything like that back in the '80s. Do you?
Nope.
I mean, it
It
was
was
literally you get a figure, you look at the back of the
Outside of
box.
outside of the GI Joe and Transformers fan clubs.
Well, and the figures would come with Transformers. They would come with like the checklist. It'd have a picture of all the figures and it'd have the checklist. I don't recall GI Joe having that. Did GI Joe have that?
Uh huh.
They did. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure back in your day, it was probably you would go to the store and be like, "Oh shit, I didn't know they came out with a new character."
I mean, you'd
You
go to
know.
the store and be like, "Who the hell is this?"
Right.
Yeah. Now I used to when I was a kid, I was a member of the GI Joe Collectors Club, and I remember getting newsletters that had all kinds of like stories and stuff like that.
It would be like
And
backstories
that
on
might have
characters and
mentioned
stuff.
GI. Yeah, well, it wouldn't. There might be a spotlight on a character, but it would be like, for instance, the Adventures of Flint,
Okay.
or they would have a story about certain Joes going on a mission, or something to that effect.
Unless the character was specifically in the comics or in the cartoon, I bet the only thing you really got to know about him was the file card on the back of the box.
And I'm sure that was
Except for
very
Starduster,
small.
Well, what
he
was
got
the?
he got a 4 comic set
Did he? Okay, I
Oh,
didn't know
shit.
that
from
either.
GI Joe. Yeah, he was the only GI Joe character to debut with GI Joe Stars and Stripes cereal
I remember that
in the
cereal.
'80s,
Yeah.
and
So why did they give him so much
you
of a
could
backstory?
because he was the first ever mail away figure for the specifically designed for the cereal.
Big promotion.
No
Yeah,
other,
what it sounds like.
yeah, big promotion. Um, they didn't really give him much of a backstory. They gave him a nice file card, but he had 4 different mini comics that had adventures with him in them. Very very hard to find figure too.
Yeah, I was about to say that's probably was like a limited stock of them when it came out or something.
Well, back.
Not really. He was available for about 4 or 5 years after the cereal
Wow.
went off the market.
But the problem is, what I was going to say is, and I don't know if everybody else's parents was like this, but like my mom, when I was a kid, she was for some reason adamantly against ordering things. I think, I mean, she was, I guess, paranoid that you'd buy something and they would never ship it to you.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So I never got to order any of the Transformers mail-aways or the G.I. Joe mail-aways or anything like that. If it wasn't in the store or in the Sears or JCPenney catalog or something, I didn't get it. That's like the Omnibots from Transformers. And I think a lot of parents were that way. And it just ordering stuff, unless it was from, like I said, Sears or JCPenney or something like that, I just think a lot of parents didn't really do that. So a lot of the mail-away figures are a little harder to find these days. I mean, would you agree, Brian? I don't know if your mom ever ordered you anything like. I guess she did. Mine just
Oh
never
God,
did.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, my mom ordered practically every figure everything that I wanted to order, I got to order.
So mail
Um,
away was like mailing or ordering something through a catalog.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
like
you would get these catalogs
Okay.
in the in GI Joe and Transformers toys that would be like, um, it would have a particular storyline or particular idea that, say Cobra's. There was one where Cobra was getting ready to use a shrink ray, and it was for minifigures that were packed in, and vehicles that were packed in as premiums with the figures. They just
Okay.
decided to sell them as a set.
I'm getting ready
They
to
were
blow.
available.
I'm getting ready to blow his mind. I'm getting ready to blow his mind.
Okay.
And Brian's gonna go, oh yes, I remember this vividly. The flag points and
Yes.
the Transformers ones. I don't think they actually had a name. They were just like the Decepticon and Autobot
Robot
logos.
point.
Robot points. Yeah.
They
Okay.
were robot point.
So yeah, Madison's sitting there scratching his head like, what the fuck are you talking about? Robot
Yeah.
points
What
and
the?
flag points. Okay. So when you would buy a figure or a vehicle for GI Joe back in the day, depending on how big the item was and how much it cost, you would have on the back of the box, like the figures. I think you got one flag point. Is that right?
Yeah.
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 So you would cut it out off the back of the cardboard backing for the figure, and then like if you bought a vehicle, like we'll say the Sky Striker, it might have been worth like 5 flag points, and it
Okay.
would have like a 5, and then the American flag, and you'd cut that out, and it was just a tiny little like 1 by 2 inch, not even 2 inch, I guess a 1 by 1 inch little thing that you cut out, and
Almost the size of a postage stamp.
So
yeah,
like a little
there
piece
you
of
go. That's
cardboard.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So you get like the little catalogs with the vehicles and the figures and the Transformers and all that, and you would get the inserts like for the catalogs and all that, and it would say, get the Omnibot of your choice for
5.95 and
$5.95 plus 20 robot points,
Oh shit.
or
So you would
get
have to mail those in.
yeah, or like
Okay.
Sergeant Slaughter. Like if you wanted the Sergeant Slaughter mail away,
oh
uh,
no. Slaughter did not use flag points.
did he know? Well, I was using that as an example, but I okay. So, who
No,
you?
Slaughter. They did a thing where they would sell the original a bunch of older Joes in sets, and they would sell them for like $12.95 and 10 flag points, for
So
instance.
so certain characters would you have to have the flag points in order to get them, or could you buy like could you
Only
spend
if
the money
you
and buy them?
only if you wanted to order them through the mail.
Okay.
But weren't there special
certain-
characters that like oh shit, what were they called? What's his name? The Created Joe figure. Shit.
Oh, Steel Brigade.
Steel Brigade. Thank you. Wasn't Steel Brigade part of that? Didn't he use the flag points?
Yes.
Okay, so that's
Um,
one that was an exclusive mail away.
Yeah. There was also a Create a Cobra.
I don't remember that one.
And the whole idea behind Create a Cobra and Steel Brigade was you can be a G.I. Joe. It was a generic figure with a helmet on, and you would send in you would write your own file
That's
card,
cool.
and you would send in your points, and you'd get the figure, a patch, and a file card printed out on a form. I've got mine from when I was a kid still. Never got the Creative Cobra. I had to buy that off eBay. But yeah, there were certain mailaways that were more fun than others and memorable. Major Blood from Cobra was one that was a memorable mailaway, because instead of flag points or proofs of purchase, you had to cut the faces off of the backer card and send them in. I believe that you would, if you used you had to include a receipt.
That's really cool. I wish they
From where
do
you
shit
bought
like
the
that now.
figure. Yeah, Slaughter. When they first released Sergeant Slaughter the mail away for Slaughter, and then later on, the refrigerator William Perry. You got these little certificates, and you would have to collect 5 certificates, or you could call a 1-900 number. I think it was a 900 number. You call a number, and they would tell you how to get your Slaughter figure with only 4 and $1.95.
Yeah, see, so that was
You would call the
all kinds of different ways to get shit back in the day. It was wild. It's nothing like it is now, where you just get on the internet and say buy,
Yeah,
buy,
and you
buy.
get it like the next day.
Yeah.
Times have changed.
Times have changed.
I mean, I was right at the tail end of catalogs. I remember getting Toys R Us catalogs for Christmas and just, going through and circling like, oh God, I want this for Christmas. But now it's just, my kids are spoiled where they're like, I want this for Christmas. We get on there on Amazon.
Yep.
Have it the next day.
Yeah, you get on Amazon and you put in your little wish list.
Yeah,
you know, and you just go and click it, and then boom,
there's no like, I don't really know the word for it. Like, it's a different feeling getting a catalog, seeing what new toys came out, circling them.
Oh yeah,
it was
maybe
excitement.
maybe hoping that you'd get them for Christmas. It's
yeah.
Kids now, like I said, kids nowadays, man, they're just spoiled.
Well,
they don't know how good they got it.
That's why I say the excitement's taken out of it, because you know a year in advance what's coming out, and whereas back in the day, you had no idea, and you saw in the catalog, or like I said, on the back of the box, like, oh wow, this guy looks cool. I wonder who he is.
Right.
As Brian has brought up a million times, the dreaded silhouettes on the back of the Joe box is like, who the hell is this? I mean, you couldn't even see their face or anything. It was just,
and I mean, there would be like certain releases that you would only see like around Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would have new releases, throughout the year, but like when Christmas came around, these catalogs come out. You're like, oh my God, there's a new lineup for Christmas. Now it's like what Jay said. It's beginning of the year, so you got the whole year. There's really no element of surprise.
Jay and I have got stuff pre-ordered through February or March of next year.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
Deathsaurus. Okay, the his tank that Brian funded through HasLab, and the Deathsaurus that I funded. We funded those. We paid for those. Yes, people, when they come in, you don't got to pay for them. You've already paid for them. Stop worrying. We ordered those, what was it, like a year ago? Yeah, and they still haven't come in yet.
Yeah.
What?
They're getting ready to ship. Oh yeah, it was a crowdfunding project.
So how many orders they put in? Is that why they're delayed?
No, they make them to order.
Yeah.
So like if 5,000. Okay, so I'll let Brian explain. Go ahead.
Basically, there's a set number. I think it was 10,000 for the his tank. I can't remember how many it was for Deathsaurus. But once you hit that's you've seen a crowdfunding campaign before where you hit the stretch goal, or you hit the goal, it funds. Then there's a stretch goal, and once it goes past that to say 12,000, it'll hit the first stretch goal and then go on however many stretch goals there are.
And then once the time is over, they tally up and see how many they got. Like, so let's say 15,000 people bought the his tank. They'll make a few more, but the general number is there's going to be 15,000 in the world, and that's it.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I did not know that was a thing.
And the his tank is and both Deathsaurus and the his tank are really nice pieces.
I'm lucky I've got all of the Transformers HasLab so far. I'm hoping to keep that streak alive. I don't have any of the G.I Joe ones. I just They're so expensive, man.
Yeah,
It's like, you got to pick and choose. And I would have loved to have had his tank, but I wanted Deathsaurus more because I'm more of a Transformers collector than a GI Joe collector. So
you do have a GI Joe crowdfunded
I
item.
do the Sky Striker. I totally forgot about it. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That Sky Striker is awesome. I love that thing. But anyway,
Yeah,
we should
but,
probably talk about the movie. We've been talking about figures and shit.
I was gonna ask, so is Cobra just indefinitely a snake now in the movie?
Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
Cobra Commander.
That's what I was going to bring up. Not about him being a snake. Go ahead and explain, Brian, and then I will try my best to remember what I was going to get you to tell Madison. Go ahead.
Well, there was actually a follow-up series
The Deke
from
series.
Deke Entertainment.
Okay.
And in the first miniseries, Operation Dragonfire, they brought Cobra Commander back to being somewhat human.
Battle Armored Cobra Commander. He looked so cool.
Yeah, the funny thing is, as the series went on, Cobra Commander looked more around his eye holes in his masks and helmets. He was flesh tone instead of being that kind of goldish yellow snake scale.
Right.
So I think eventually he got turned into a full human.
So this is what I wanted to bring up, and I'm glad Madison asked that because that totally reminded me of what I was going to talk about or get Brian to talk about. That is not the origin of Cobra Commander in G.I. Joe the movie. That is not what I consider.
That is G.I. Joe. That's the animated origin of Cobra Commander.
Yes, and I like the comics version much better. It to me is more interesting, and I'll let Brian explain that and see which one you think you would like more.
Cobra Commander was a used car salesman who got fed up with being screwed by the system. So he founded Cobra as a pyramid scheme or a company, a terrorist organization funded by pyramid schemes and multi-level marketing. And he went around college campuses recruiting disillusioned youth. And that's how he built Cobra.
Almost like a cult.
You said he was a what salesman?
Used car salesman.
Used car salesman.
That's the most randomest shit I have ever heard in my life.
Not necessarily, because if you think about it, especially back in the 80s, you had people that had, quote, these dead-end jobs. Used car salesmen. Back, especially like through the 50s, through the 70s, door-to-door salesmen were a thing. Not so much in the 80s. We still had them occasionally. But okay, here's something you might be able to relate to. Did you ever, when you were a kid, go with your parents on one of those, what do they call them, Brian? It's share, like a
timeshare.
Timeshare. Thank you. Timeshare. Yes. So you know
I know what they are, but I don't think we ever did.
Okay, so the way timeshares work is you would get sent like a letter in the mail, and they would say, hey, we want to do this timeshare thing. If you're interested, come and hear us out. We're having a seminar that usually would last all day. It'd be like a 4 or 5 hour long seminar. But they'd say, if you come to our seminar, you get a free gift. And a lot of times, sometimes they were decent gifts. Most of the time it was bullshit. Like, you might get, a set of plates, or you might get like a mini TV or a radio or something.
It's like a lure tactic.
Exactly. It was literally just to get butts in seats so that you'd have to sit there and listen to their sales pitch. And they were so confident in their sales pitch that you were going to buy this timeshare after they were done, that they would give you these prizes. So that kind of shit was the thinking behind like Cobra Commander. I mean, used car salesman. I know you've heard used car salesman jokes.
Yeah.
It's still kind of a thing. So, I mean, this guy, down on his luck, like Brian said, just getting tired of getting beaten down by the system. So he forms this terrorist organization, basically plays the system against itself with pyramid schemes, and all this shit to amass all this money. Then brings Destro in, which I'll let Brian explain Destro, and they form Cobra, and basically is just like telling the government to fuck themselves. They're going to take over. Am I pretty close on that, Brian?
Pretty much, yeah. Destro actually came in a little bit later after the founding of Cobra.
Well, that's what I meant. I didn't mean he
Um,
helped found it. I'm just saying, like, he came in to strengthen, because him being an arms dealer and everything.
Yeah. Uh, Destro is a Scottish laird or lord. He's the 27th Destro in the long line of Destros. He is the founder and head of Mars Arms Military Arms Research Syndicate, Mars, and he's Cobra's primary weapons supplier.
And if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, the Crimson Twins were brought in to basically run Cobra's finances. Is that right?
In the cartoon, they were.
Okay, so it was different.
In the comic, they didn't really. Yeah, the comic they didn't really do much like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's one aspect I really did like in the comic, in the cartoon, is the Crimson Guard, the Crimson Twins being the financiers of Cobra.
Yeah, so that always made sense to me. I always thought that gave them something to do, and it explained why they were more up on the upper hierarchy of Cobra.
Well, the Crimson Guard were supposed to be the sleeper agents of Cobra. The whole idea behind the Crimson Guard is your nice neighbor across the street could have a Cobra uniform hanging in his closet.
Which was a throwback of the time with the whole communist scare, the Cold War. Hey, your neighbor, as Brian said, could be a Russian spy or a communist spy. You don't know. It was this whole big in the 80s, during the height of the Cold War, there was this huge panic, this whole fear. Like when Brian and I were in school, it was regular that, and a lot of people listen to us, I'm sure remember this, you would have drills. And it's not like a fire drill or a tornado drill. It was a fucking nuclear drill. Like, that. But that's the whole parallel what he was talking about, with the sleeper agents of Cobra. Like he said, your next door neighbor could be a Cobra, a citizen of Cobra, and a spy, and just watching you to see what you're doing. A lot of parallels to real life when it came to stuff.
Sounds like y'all had a lot of panic in the 80s.
Oh, we did. Yeah, there was. It was a great time. It was a great time to be alive. But it was also
our last podcast.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a great time. But it was also it was kind of a scary time. I mean,
I know my dad always talks about how the 80s was his favorite era growing up.
Oh,
which I mean, he's like in his 50s. Or like mid to late 50s, so because he was like born, I think mid 70s. Anyways, he always talked about how the 80s, the retro and stuff. Yes. And if I could pick an era to go back in, it would probably be the 80s because I love retro stuff too.
I mean, he's right around our age, so I mean we're right around his age, so it's we remember a lot of the same stuff. But I mean, you got to think, man. I take this for granted. I don't think about this a lot, but 2/3 of us in this podcast actually saw the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
Madison didn't see that. That was before his time.
I was actually there. No,
I was too. I was at Tiananmen Square. I saw the tank run over that dude.
We saw him become a speed bump. Yeah,
I don't think he was a speed bump. I think he was more of a, as Sergeant Slaughter said, pull him up off the ground with a squeegee. But that's one of those jokes people misremember. I even misremembered that. I thought he got run over, but apparently he didn't. But getting back to the movie, so what were things that you did and didn't like about it?
I mean,
from an outside perspective,
I just feel like I think what I didn't like about it was just like I said before, a lot to keep up with. Coming into it, not really knowing much about it, because I'm just kind of like, what the hell is going on? Other than that, the characters were interesting, especially the villains. But the whole thing with Cobra turning into a snake was just kind of weird for me, because like I said before, Cobra was always the main villain when I grew up with G.I Joe. So it was just kind of weird to see other villains in that aspect. If that makes sense.
I get what you're saying. All right.
Yeah, it was a bit jarring to see Cobra Commander become a snake.
Well, even when we watched it in the 80s, it was, I won't say it was a total tonal shift from the cartoon, but it was still kind of jarring because, as we said, there were sci-fi elements to the show.
Right.
There were things that were abnormal that happened in certain episodes, but seeing it on that big a scale, now don't get me wrong, when I was a kid, I fucking loved it. I was like, this movie's fucking awesome. This is great. And I still like it a lot. I will go out on a limb and say I don't think it's as good as Transformers the movie, and I'm not simply saying that just because I'm a bigger Transformers nerd. But I just think from I won't say a production standpoint because they both had really good production. The animation was great in both of them.
The animation was amazing on G.I. Joe.
Oh, it was, yeah. Like
compared to the series, it was just breathtaking.
As far as
Can't
the
even
animation,
imagine.
well, I was going to say before Madison talks, as far as the animation, one scene that always sticks out to me is when Mercer takes the dive and he's shooting his pistol and he slides on his chest. He does that dive, the chest dive.
Yeah.
That's just really smooth animation. But anyway, sorry, Madison, what were you going to say?
No, I can't imagine, like, how it was for you guys when that came out. Like, as far as, how good the animation was for its time. Like, and I'm not by no means saying that movies and stuff nowadays has great animation, because they don't. But, like, I don't know, would it be a good example nowadays? But seeing something now that's, really cool as opposed to what that was like for you guys when that came out, because that was animation in its prime at that time. So I mean, that was probably like kind of mind-boggling for you guys.
I'll go out on a limb,
yeah.
and I don't know if Brian will agree. I think he will. I will go out on a limb and say, I think as kids, and I think this is one reason why we still love this stuff so much as adults, I think as kids we were so fanatical about these properties and these characters. They just struck home with us. You watch these cartoons and you read these comics and you learn these characters, and they almost become like a part of your life, almost a part of your family, and you grow to love them. It's almost like they're your friends, or they're your big brother, or they're your dad. And when the movie comes out, you get so excited, and you're jumping up and down and you can't wait to watch it. I don't think kids have that these days. I don't think there's anything,
There's no creatability in stuff for kids nowadays. Like the time they take with how you guys were describing the toys earlier, the cards that come with the characters, you don't know much about them. You get these cards, and then that gives you room to build on these characters with your imagination.
Exactly.
Kids, I mean, there's no imagination. Everything's forced now. It's all technology. There's no, okay, this is a toy of a character that I got from the store. Here's a little card. Okay, I've built my imagination around this character for so long. Now they're coming out with a movie. Now you get to see a little bit more of this character that you've played with, you've had action figures of years, and now you're seeing them in a movie, and God, so you can kind of relate and connect with that character, and also being a kid and it goes to us being adults now relating to it. It's escape from reality. It's all fiction.
You just perfectly described me as a 7-year-old kid when this movie came out, because Falcon was one of my favorite figures from G.I. Joe. I mean, I've said that about several characters. I like all the Joes. I mean, there's not really any that I don't like. But right. Falcon, I just always thought he looked so cool. And when I found out he was in the movie, I was like you said, oh my gosh, I actually get to learn more about him. I get to not just read his personality and his bio and stuff. I get to see
Right.
how he reacts. I get to hear Don Johnson do his voice. I get to hear his mannerisms, and it added to that playability of like, okay, this reinforces me liking Falcon.
Yeah, it's great. I just don't think kids have that nowadays. They just really don't.
No,
They've taken away that creative aspect to these toys because they're just marketing, man. They're just trying to push out and make money and technology. It's terrible. And I think the last thing I really connected to as far as comic related stuff was the MCU movies up to Endgame. Because it was a 10-year process. I know I'm getting off subject. It was a 10-year process, and I always loved Marvel growing up, and it's complete garbage now what they've done with it. But just exactly like what you said, reading in the comic books of these characters, getting the figures of them, and then you finally get to see their emotions on the screen. It's just something.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anything else to add? Because we could go into more things like about how like when Serpentor flies around, you hear the TIE fighter and Darth Vader's breathe.
Oh my gosh, there were so many Star Wars sounds
There was
in that movie.
And
Some
then,
of them I couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was though. I feel like it was maybe like lasers being shot from like the Death Star or something with some of them.
I'm not sure about that one.
There were some that I couldn't pinpoint exactly
I know
what.
Brian
Star
pointed
Wars,
out.
what it was,
Brian
but-
pointed one out at the very beginning of the movie.
The eel creature that bites through the fence there's a lightsaber clash.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sound.
Yeah. So you got the lightsabers, Pythona using lightsabers. Now that would have been badass, man. She'd have been kind of unstoppable then.
Yeah, just whip out the lightsabers.
Yeah. And then you got Serpentor's air chariot doing the TIE fighter, Darth Vader breathing mix there. And I mean, there was, as Brian pointed out, there was several gunshots that sounded like Megatron's fusion cannon from Transformers. And I was going to say, G.I. Joe and Transformers were always kind of incestuous anyway with their sounds. Sound effects got carried over, voice talent got carried over, music got carried over. You'd hear a tune in Transformers, and then 30 minutes later, when G.I. Joe came on, you'd hear that same music in that episode. And the voice cast, like I said, you got Frank Welker and all of them. They did both sets of characters.
Don't forget they also shared a character.
Oh yeah, fucking was it
Hector Rivera.
Yeah.
Who was also on Gem and the Hologram and Inhumanoids.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll do other G.I. Joe videos at some point, but do you want to explain Hector Rivera to Madison a little bit? I mean, I know he wasn't in the movie, but since you brought him up.
Hector Rivera was basically a takeoff of Geraldo Rivera.
Okay.
Madison's probably like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah, I'm trying to Google search while you're all talking.
He was a tabloid reporter.
Okay.
And Hector Rivera was like this big ratings hound. He actually was in the Deke series too, but they changed his name a little. He was a shared character between Transformers, G.I. Joe, Gem and the Holograms, which is weird, and Inhumanoid.
And if I'm remembering correctly, I think he had pretty much the same characterization in all the shows.
Yeah, he was kind of a sleazy tabloid reporter.
He's just like, they're just like, yeah, just throw him into the show. We'll tie him in somehow.
Oh, they tied him in. I mean, he was a scum bucket. But
yes, he was.
Was there anything you wanted to ask us, Madison? I mean, we kind of got your hot take on it. It wasn't what you were expecting. Did the sci-fi? I may have asked this earlier. Did the sci-fi really take away from the enjoyment of the movie for you, though?
No, I think the movie wouldn't have been good if it didn't have the sci-fi in it.
Okay, interesting. That's really interesting because, as Brian said, a lot of people criticize the movie for the sci-fi stuff in it.
I mean, I feel like
It wasn't
that's what
military
made
enough
the
for
movie.
them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you gotta have an open mind when it comes to stuff like that. They're gonna dabble. Things like this are gonna dabble.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting how they wanted to kill characters off, bring more like different characters in, and how the show influenced like the release of like figures and stuff. That's very interesting. They don't do stuff like
No, and
No.
I was actually gonna ask you since you were big into Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh,
yes.
and I think I know the answer. Like I said, that was a little after my time, but now with Pokemon, I know they didn't really kill off characters. They just would bring new characters in through the video games, right?
Yes. Yes, the video games and
The
really the
card game, I
card
guess. Yeah.
sets. The card sets too introduced a ton of characters, and then they would adapt those into the games, and they're still doing that now. And it is, in my opinion, spinning out of control. Uh, I think we should save that topic for another podcast because I
Agreed.
could ramble on all night about that.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, Brian, we don't use the word expert, but as I'll say G.I. Joe man, any closing thoughts or questions or comments or anything?
All I could say about G.I. Joe the movie is I thought it was very well animated. Some of the action scenes are fantastic. The storming of the Terrordrome is fantastic. The opening montage is just stunning. It's
I was actually going to say, I know, and you brought this up before, that the opening to the movie was supposed to be the climax of the movie, but did anyone else, while we were watching the opening and then watching the movie, think, and I'm not bashing the movie at all, or the quality of it, did you not think that the animation in the opening was just a little bit slicker than the rest of the movie?
Yes. Yes.
yes.
I thought so too.
I feel like the
Yes.
opening is a little bit deceiving too, because you watch that and then you watch the movie and you're like, wait a minute. Because I think bringing that up now, I totally forgot that the intro was the way it was.
Yeah, the intro is it really takes you by surprise because it has very little to do with the actual storyline of the movie.
Right? Exactly. I feel like Cobra Commander was in the intro more than he was in the actual movie.
Okay, so that brings me
Yeah.
to two things. Go ahead, Brian. There's two things else that I wanted to mention before we call this quits, and I think this is something interesting we can discuss. But go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I hate fan theories. I hate them. Thank you, Game of Thrones. Fucking hate fan theories.
Oh god, don't
I'm
even get
so
me started
sick
on
of it.
Game of Thrones.
But what I was gonna say was, I always saw the opening to the movie instead of being the climax like it was supposed to be. That's actually the opening of the movie, not just the theme song. And when Serpentor is talking to Cobra Commander and telling him how much he's failed and everything, I always saw that as Serpentor pointing at their failure of destroying the Statue of Liberty as like the one driving home moment, as okay, this is the final time you fucked up. We're doing away with you.
Wow, that puts it in a completely different perspective.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know if you'd ever thought about that, Brian, but even as a kid, I was like, okay, so that was his last. Because think about it, they had the big mothership and everything with them, for this big mission, and Serpentor's just pissed off. I mean, they lost the big ship, they failed the mission, and Destro's like, well, fuck balls, man. Yeah, Cobra Commander, he's a buffoon, and Mindbender's like, well, shit, I ain't gonna get, take the heat for taking up for Cobra Commander. Yeah, he's a coward, So that's the way I always took that. And my other thing that I always thought, even as a kid, everyone always complains about Cobra Commander, always repeating, once was a man, once was a man. I still say to this day that the spores were not just mutating his body, his brain was going too. It was de-evolving, and that's like pretty much all he could fucking think to say.
That'd be the only thing that'd make sense. I mean, that makes
Yeah.
total sense to me.
Oh yeah, that makes total sense to me too.
Well, that's what I wanted to end off on. If there's anything else anybody else wants to contribute, go for it. If not, we'll call this a wrap.
I think you've
I
answered
got
all my
nothing.
questions.
All right. Well, in that case, go ahead.
Before we get off, I know we probably need to mention it more, guys. We have a Twitter. We're on all the socials. Go follow us on Twitter. What's the other?
Well, you made that list. Tell them about the list.
Yeah, so we have a link tree on any of our pages. So if you get on Facebook, Twitter, I need to make an Instagram. I have a public Instagram. I could probably share that. I need to make an Instagram so that link can be shared too. But if you click on that link, and I will post it with any post I make, like let's say I make a post about this podcast, I will post that link so you are able to get to any link that we are on. So, that being Spotify, Amazon Music.
So you're saying if I click this link, I could come and join the totally awesome, really cool Pop Chaos group on Facebook?
Yes.
Oh shit!
Yes.
Where the hell do I sign up? Yeah.
Not just Facebook.
Oh, not just Facebook.
All of them.
So
all the medias.
So I could actually listen to the podcast from this link too?
Yes.
What about videos? Can I watch videos from it too?
Yes, we got everything, all the good shit.
Holy shit!
All right there, one click.
I take it back. Technology is wonderful.
Oh yeah. Yes, it is.
I think Brian has had a rough day, a long day. I can tell he's getting tired. He's going to start going on about Spike's useless fat fuck of a father if we don't end this. So he still owes you $10, bro.
Fat bastard.
All right, guys. Until next time, I'm Jay.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Madison.
And we are Pop Chaos. Have a good one.
See you guys.